Hello, Paula. I am very glad to have you as a guest in our interview series, I Am. And I want to go directly into our first question and to invite you very shortly, in 30 seconds, to present yourself for our public.
Oh, it would be great to know who the public is in that case. But anyway, hi. My name is Paula Redlefsen. I'm a screenwriter and I live and work in Berlin, Germany, where I'm from. I have 2 children and I feel called to inspire people. And I want to do it through words and also pictures, paintings, or visuals for movies.
How long have you known about yourself that you want to become a screenwriter?
Oh, I started that I loved movies as a teenager, as I guess most people do. And I loved actors in it. They just seemed so alive, like more alive than the people I could usually see around on the street. And I wanted to become an actor. And after I finished my school, I went to New York City to study acting. And that was a big adventure. And that was exciting and fun. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot about, the limits that we impose on us as human beings of what is, what our little range of expression is. And as an acting training, you just expand on that range. You try things that you didn't know you could and show yourself in different ways. And I still think that is so valuable and everybody should do it. Like, even if you don't, it's just really good to explore what, the range of human expression is.
And you know, you have known at that moment when you were studying acting that you want to become a screenwriter?
Oh no, no, that was a longer process. I struggled finding jobs in acting, and it seemed really difficult for me to compete with other beautiful, amazing actresses, and I always felt like I'm a bit shy. and I guess I am. For an actress, I'm really more of a shy type. For a writer, I'm pretty extroverted because writers are usually even more shy. So I'm kind of on middle grounds, I guess. And no, after I studied acting, I really tried to get into plays, into filmmaking, and I realized quickly that during the production, like when it's hands-on, making something happen, that so much more than the acting really is required to make it a good film. Like the intention behind it and the the whole big idea in a project, like that was something that I was starting to get interested in. And I directed some short films and I made my own, I got a camera and some friends and I learned editing and I made short films, submitted them to festivals, and then I realized, after having made several short films, that just making them isn't really the path either. It's really good to spend some time on the script and to really be thorough and what you put down on paper or what you're actually telling in the film. Then it's kind of good to learn script writing. And when I took a script writing class, I took like a 1-year intensive class, I was hooked. I really loved it. It had like it answered all the questions that I had, really. And also what I love now still is that I can basically step into all the characters, not just the ones that I would play, like not just female, white, my age range, but I can go into all the character, be it the bus driver, be it the old person, be it the vampire, or, no limits to the imagination, and go into their energy and try to find an expression for them and try to see where they're going and where the conflicts are with other characters from the story. So I really just found like, oh, that's my place. That's where I want to work.
Because you mentioned shyness. How would you define shyness, and how do you see that shyness as a block, or as a nurturing thing for acting or for writing?
Yeah, that's interesting. I think from my experience, there's really like kind of an inbuilt temper that people have as introverts or extroverts. Like some people will just naturally thrive in front of a camera and feel more alive because they're watched, and other people, shy away. And there's cultural differences too. Like me as a German studying acting in America, I realized it's a huge cultural difference. For example, in Germany, it was totally common when I was a teenager that all of my girlfriends did not want to have their picture taken. That whenever somebody took a camera out, everybody was like, "Oh no," and giggling, "No, don't take my picture." And then I came to the US, and also as an exchange student with a family, like a totally normal family in Minnesota, far away from any type of, glamour or screen thoughts. And they had a totally different relationship to media and to cameras. Like everyone was just instantaneously, a camera was whipped out there going, presenting themselves like, "Here I am. See me, isn't it great?" And that was just like two different cultures with showing up. But then, of course, the question is, how authentic are you in that presentation of yourself? And how authentic is also the hiding, the being modest and the shying away? How much is that not also a cultural construct that can be limiting? And yeah, there's so much to say about shyness. I mean, I think it has a personal story. Usually it has a genetic backstory of how dangerous it can be to express yourself in front of an audience, and your genetic code basically tells you it's scary. They can throw stones, they can they could stone you to death if you say something wrong, because we've had that in our past. And then, it's good to become aware of what is the present danger of actually speaking and what's more dangerous. Maybe it's more dangerous to not speak, and then to really make that choice to overcome limiting beliefs.
Great point. So in acting school,
Mhm.
do you have some exercises to make you more open and more able to express yourself and to be comfortable in front of cameras?
Yeah, there's a lot of exercises, of course, but I think what it really comes down to is if you connect strongly enough with your imagination, if it's not, "Oh, I'm playing for the camera, I'm showing to the camera." I mean, this of course comes if you're a skilled Hollywood actor. You have to know the camera and have a relationship with it. But in general, like as soon as you're in the story, like in the character and what they want, and they don't want to impress an audience because they have different goals and destinations and different thoughts and different desires. And to connect with that strongly enough will carry you through the fear of being seen. And I think that's still true for anyone who steps on a stage to give a presentation. If you connect with the material, like the
Mhm.
content of what you actually have to say, not the how or the who do you want to impress, but what's the inspiration, what's like the spark in it that's important for people to hear, and that will, following that will free you in a way.
I feel the same. If you connect with your why, with why are you there, what are you giving to those people that
Yeah,
listen to you?
yeah.
Yeah. And when it comes to writing, to screenwriting, um, what is the hardest thing for your trainees? Let's say you help people screenwrite, if I understood correctly.
Yeah, well, I do several things. I coach people from different backgrounds, like let's say science or finance, who also have to give presentations and maybe also motivate a team or talk to, you know, shareholders and present themselves. So that's kind of a mix of acting training, you know, present with your body, being connected with your body, being connected with the audience in a physical way, but also structuring the material that you have so it really builds an arc. So it really builds a beginning, a middle, and an end, and it actually is compelling to listen to, that you really, you know, make the audience ask, what's next? What's next?
I want more.
Yeah, next thing. We have this question now, and we want to know the answer. And yeah, that is big in the craft of screenwriting, of course, too. And what I started as a writer is to build a website for writers to exchange feedback on their work, because, you know, it's a lonesome process. You sit alone with your ideas and your desk, and it can be frustrating to be alone and not to have somebody to give you, you know, like a sounding board for your ideas, or somebody to just read it and tell you, well, I got it. I got what you wanted to say, or I don't think I got it. Maybe it's a little, there's too many ideas. Some are interesting, some are not. You know, just that kind of feedback I think is really valuable, as we also had in Speak and Inspire, to just have somebody who's actually there listening to your videos, giving you feedback. And so that is not so much a teacher thing, but more a peer thing, where people help each other because they're all in the same process. They're all trying to express ideas in stories, and they need these sounding boards to find out, is that working or is it just in my head?
And
Airplane.
when you start to write script for a movie, how do you proceed? How do you have the end in mind from the start, or do
No.
you let the characters grow and construct as you progress?
Yeah, the process is quite different for each project. I really have to say, it can't be like, sometimes I work for myself first of all. Like, I have an idea, I want to see if I can make that happen, and then later on, if I have a written version, I try to find a director, producer, actors, people who like that. Sometimes it's the other way around, that you have a director who has an idea, or a female director. I don't know if that's called directress, but I want to, my point is really to work with women and to write for women, to really write strong or complex and wonderful female characters. Um, and sometimes it's the other way around, that somebody approaches me and says, look, I have this idea. Does that interest you? Do you want to, you know, flesh it out with me, or write it so I can make a film from it? And that's a bit different, because then I I basically have to write for that movie maker style. Also, then it's, you know, if they're more into drama, it'll become more of a drama. If it's more of a farce, it'll become that. And I also really want to make sure that I find my own voice in writing. And I think that's not very common, especially not in Germany, because the film industry here is set up that way, that writers are really executing other people's ideas for money, and they can get hired and fired. Everybody in the industry knows the value of a good script, but they will not be like, oh, the writer, you know, let's listen to them, what they have to say. It's more of a, maybe it's an ego thing, you know, more of a, oh, the producers know, or maybe it's a market thing, you know, the producers say, okay, people want to watch this, so I have an idea how to reach that market, and now let me find the creative people who fulfill that, you know, market based idea. And I would really like to encourage all the writers who write for film and television to also write scripts that are really saying what they want to say, to give them an original artist voice, because I think that will enrich the whole scope of what we see in cinema and TV.
And how do you see this originality showing up in the script? In what
Yeah, and I didn't
form do you
question,
transmit it?
didn't, I kind of circled around your question, which is how does the writing process start? Which is it can be a character, and this is usually quite a good idea to focus on one character if it's like a cinematic movie, because it's so, it's like a zoom into one specific transition in one person, that you try to get, you know, as much power and attention into that transition and not tell like 500 other storylines. But then of course you have a series that have like an ensemble cast and 5 characters, and they're all important, and then it's more about maybe looking at the world of that story through a certain lens, like with a certain humor or a certain attitude. Like that can also be a way of finding, you know, joy in storytelling. It's like, I want to tell all these things I see in that way. Like that can be an inspiration.
Thank you. So, coming back to originality,
Yeah.
how would you see your originality imprint in your writing? In which way can you take a piece and confirm without the signature that it is yours or someone
Yeah.
else?
Yeah, it's a good question, because in a painting, you know, you can do that. You paint it all by yourself, or a book, a novel, you write it alone, you put your name on it, boom, it's yours. And film is by nature a collaborative process. It will never just have your name on it. It'll always be the collaborative work of many people and artists and many visions. And sometimes yours might get lost along the way, and the director's vision is much stronger, or what the actress does with the character is much stronger. And it's also kind of, you know, a game of egos, and to see, you know, do I have to have control over my vision, or can I just also give it up to other people and let them play with it? And no, you can't really be completely sure. And also something that I realized, and I think a lot of beginners will go through, when you think you write the story that you have in mind, you're not aware of all the influences you've ever had in your life. And most of the time, you'll just produce generic, cliched stuff, things you've seen, you know, movies you've seen, and you add some things from your life, and then you reproduce that because you've
But
seen cop movies, for example, and then you make a cop movie, and then it's just, and it's funny because the audience knows it immediately. They're like, ah, I've seen that movie too, and this is not adding something new to it. It's kind of, yeah, you know. So yeah, and it, like, one of the first films I wrote, I really wanted to make it about the female lead characters, and then I realized after some pages that I'd written them like they were basically unconscious in the back of cars, and it was only about the guys driving them around and controlling the scenes. And it's like, this happened because there's a there's an influence, and we really have to be conscious of the influence in order to make new choices or to play with it.
But creativity, after all, takes influences and combine them into something new, into
Yeah.
another meaning. We maybe spot some points of influence, but if the ensemble is ours, is it
Yeah.
wrong?
Yeah, it's absolutely right that we are influenced. And then comes maybe the knowledge of who am I? Like, what is the prism this influence gets thrown back out into the world? And as long as there's no distinct, feeling for who is I, we don't reflect it enough. We just copy it. And that's just something that I've seen with a lot of people who are beginning screenwriters. It's just very natural to start from that, from what you've seen. And then it takes time to come up with your distinct voice. It's not the first thing usually that happens.
Maybe it's a sedimentation process. You take something and you give it time, and you let it into your perspective to be slowly absorbed, slowly transformed, and it's something else in the end.
Yeah, and the funny thing about script writing is too that it's only 120 pages for a feature film, maybe only 90 pages. It's not much, but it takes so much time to make them because it's really the, what do you call it, the essence of the story. In books, you have pages and pages for backstories or for people's thoughts or for the view that they look at. And in a movie, you try to tell it all really like condensed. Like, you take all the information from 30 pages and put them in 3. They have to be in 3. They have the subtext, the
And how
backstory, the place, the dialogue flows naturally, but at the same time it's loaded with subtext and information. So I kind of feel that's the unique challenge of screenwriting, is really to find the essence. And it takes discipline and cutting away a lot of pages and ideas.
how do you cut back the inessential to reach those 90 pages? What's
Mm.
your way of condensing?
Yeah, you also rewrite a lot. Like, let's say you have a script of 120 pages, it's your first draft, and then you read it again and you realize, oh, 2 of these characters could be the same person. I could combine them as one. It's not really, really necessary for the story to have 2 of them who do similar things. I could make one character from it. And then you can't really cut one character. You have to find a whole new, new scenes, new everything to make that work. That could be one way of rewriting. Or yeah, it's like you said, it's like you make it, you let it sit for a while, you take some distance, you maybe get feedback from friends or colleagues, and then you look at it with fresh eyes and try to really feel like, where's the most heat, where's the most spark, and what is just kind of, yeah, it's okay, but you don't really need it.
In a story plot, which is for you the most important part for the story to touch emotionally the
Yeah.
listeners, the ones who watch the movie?
Yeah, it's usually one person's biggest transition or challenge, like the hero's journey. Like, if the audience is invested, emotionally invested in one of the people succeeding, and they are faced with horrible challenges, and then finally they find a way to succeed, that's huge. That's like the ultimate formula, I'd say. And that can be done in 1,000 ways, and it's always the same and always new. I'm reading Harry Potter to my kids right now.
My daughter is reading Harry Potter.
Yeah, yeah, and it's magic, you know, it's writing is magic. I'm telling them that they don't need a magic wand. All they need is a pencil. that creates the magic, because it creates the magic in the person who reads it, and they have emotions and inspirations and fears, and they invest so much from their own life because they see themselves in the character, and yeah, all of that.
So when you write, the most central point of writing is the character, is one character,
Mhm.
or is the action, the conflict, the blocks
Yeah,
in the past?
it's basically two different approaches to writing, or maybe even different genre choices. I wouldn't know, but in the screenwriting community, you talk about plot-driven or character-driven stories, and character-driven is a bit better. Because plot-driven usually means you have a funky idea. You think, oh, I want that to happen. And then you squeeze all the characters into their roles to make that happen. And it's usually not organic. Like, it can be, but oftentimes you make character choices where it really doesn't make sense for them to make that choice. It doesn't make sense and they wouldn't do it, but you make them do it because you want that next scene to happen. That's a sure way to lose the audience, because they want to be connected to the character and follow their choices and follow what they want. Airplane. Yeah, so I mean, I think character driven is the better way to go. Um, but I mean, that applies for screenwriting. And if you have something that isn't a film, like if you just give a presentation and, like, let's say environmental problems, you don't want to have it about one person. It's like a universal thing, and it's not about one individual. It's something much bigger, and then you need to find a different connection to the audience. I'm not sure how I would do that, but I totally acknowledge that it's so much more is possible than to focus only on the individual hero's journey. There's so much more possible. And sometimes it seems to me also that classical dramaturgy teaches you to, you know, to have that one person wants something and they totally invest in it and they face all the obstacles to it, and then they finally either make it or don't make it. Like, that's classical drama structure. And that to me seems sometimes very masculine. It's like very, yeah, it's strong, but it's very linear. It's like one person's story, or you know, one person's transformation. And what I noticed also in Speak and Inspire, and in many different areas of life right now, is that we can't really transform by ourselves. It's like it's not an individual thing. It's so interconnected, and one person touches the other, and it goes there, and you know, it's like it's not even close to linear. It's so
It's a network. It's complex, and there are echoes and vibes, and we are all
yeah.
creating together.
And the bigger picture of where's that one individual in, what's that cultural context, what is driving them from outside. I mean, they might think they want something, but it's really just a reflection of their culture, possibly. And it might look different from if you broaden the frame, if you look outside, like the little bubble that they live in. It just might look different at the moment you step outside that bubble. So yeah, I'm really interested in also different narrative structures, and I've seen beautiful ones, and I've seen, yeah, it's astounding. It's very complex. I can't put it into very few words.
And now, getting to the personal side, Paula, what was the most fearful thing that you have done in your life? Do you know?
Oops. The first thing that comes to mind is that I did bungee jumping and jumping out of airplanes, parachuting, and yeah, I did that because I also still when I was younger, I wanted to experience that moment where my mind would let go and not run the show. I didn't know how to do it, but I thought, okay, maybe, you know, that kind of moment if you bungee jump from a high place and you just have to let go. And actually, yeah, that was really making me happy for a short while.
And
Really,
how did you experience it? Was it like in a movie? Was it time dilating and all those feeling in a rush?
yeah, it's strange because I mean, it's like you give up control through physical experience. Like usually we have gravity and it comes one way, but if you bungee jump, you go down and then you go up. Like it's gravity is lost. Like you don't know where gravity is coming from. You fall this way and then you fall that way and then you fall this way and then you fall that way and then but it's like a very physical thing. It's like it does stuff to your body and your system and your hormones. And so I did feel like this rush of euphoria afterwards. And you know what? I can't even say that I was totally afraid before of that. So I mean, there are other things when I felt more afraid of like maybe a tiny step, and it took me much more it took me much more guts to make a tiny step that wasn't this big jump.
Mm-hmm. And what was the tiniest thing that?
Well, the next thing that came to mind is giving birth to my kids, but that's kind of big
That's not
too.
tiny.
No, no, but I chose to do it at home, and because I, you know, wanted to feel like I was really doing it, not the hospital is doing it, but I'm really
Were
doing
you
it.
afraid being at home?
Yes, I was really like when that pain started, I was terrified. And I had chosen it to do it at home and I was really scared. And they came out fine, but it really hurt too.
And what is the most fun thing that you do together with your? You have two daughters?
I have one son, one
One
daughter.
son, one daughter. What is the most fun thing in your
Yeah, I
play
guess
together?
really what my passion is storytelling. So I love to read to them. I love to read books to them, and they love it too. And they, you know, now it's the Harry Potter phase, but we had also Astrid Lindgren was huge, and I loved reading it. And at the sad places, I always cry, and my my kids know that I really, you know, go into the story with them. Yeah, I like that.
Beautiful. And in your private life, where do you take energy when you have a day from dawn to going to bed in the night? Where is that moment of you with yourself that gives you energy and charge you for all the things that you have to do in the day for others, maybe?
Mhm. Yeah, that's a good question, isn't it? I I find I need about 2 hours per day to be alone. I found that out. I'm 42 now, and I guess I found it out through just yeah, having babies and being a mother and being a working person in a big city. I'm very sensitive, and I just go I exhaust. I exhaust if I'm always around people. I have to have time to just be alone. And I take that time. I go for walks, I meditate, I paint, I just sit. You know, it doesn't even have to be like a meditation. Like I can just sit someplace, just sit there half an hour and have my thoughts, not have to do anything. And I'm really protective of that time now because I know that's me. That's like that's me. That's protecting me if I do that. And yeah, it's uh it's the only way I can do this.
Thank you, Paula. It was such a pleasure to have you in our interview today. And now that we are at the finish line, I challenge you to complete the phrase "I am" with only one word.
It's nice challenge. I'm going by the first thing that pops up in my mind. I'm free. I'm not sure if I am, but it's what I'm gonna be.
Thank you. It's beautiful to share this authentic, this freedom, and to give other people that mirror of being free, of being yourself, of being okay with shyness, depressing shyness, pushing your limits, and enjoying what you are doing.
I
Thank you
have to
so much.
really say, it's so wonderful to have this interview with you. I never met you before, and it's just beautiful. And I wish we could connect on some other occasion and just talk, because I would love to ask you all the same things now and hear what you have to say. And
Thank
I'm
you.
sure there's a
We will
lot
do that.
that
I really enjoyed this conversation, and I invite you, our listeners, if you find an insight, if you find something to take from this conversation and to put into your lives as a habit, please click the link in the description and donate a small amount of money for the hospitals in Romania which are in need. Thank you so
yes.
much, Paula. It was a pleasure, and we will be in touch.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Bye.